we expect everybody should be prepared on their own and as a household. And as neighbors, you should be encouraging your neighbors to get prepared. When I go out and I do presentations and I ask people if they're prepared for an earthquake, unfortunately, the typical response tends to be, well, I don't have to be prepared. I'm just going to go to your house. That doesn't work. I'm not going to let you in and have my supplies. My supplies are my supplies. And that's being selfish to a certain degree. But on a larger scale, if I give you my supplies, then I don't have any supplies. The expectation is that we should have 3 to 4 weeks of shelf stable food. That's canned goods, stuff that can last multiple years. Some of the canned goods can last upwards of 25 years. Water typically lasts 5 years in a plastic container that's sealed, but some of the canned water can last up to 25 years as well. What that actually sounds like, we say a gallon per person per day. What you're looking at is 21 to 30 gallons per person and per pet. Every pet should also have a gallon per pet per day. In addition to that, any prescription medications, make sure you have a 1 month reserve of that, because you can't expect to go to CVS and get your prescription if there's been a major earthquake. For one thing, those pharmacies are going to be massively impacted as well. And the people who have been injured and getting care for they're going to get prescription medication as well, and they're going to be making runs on those pharmacies. You should be able to go to an insurance company and ask them for a 1 month backup. I don't know exactly the details on that, but reach out to your insurance company and ask them for an emergency 1 month supply, and you should be able to get it. Additionally, it's a good idea to have barbecues either running on propane or butane. I know some of us have natural gas, but we can expect those natural gas lines to break and not be able to function. And if you have your barbecue attached via natural gas line as well, that's not going to work either. So having multiple propane tanks is going to be a godsend and really an asset when there's no power and there's no natural gas flowing to your home. And things that people forget often are flashlights. If the power's out, it's going to get dark. It's going to get very dark. And not having just 1 or 2 flashlights in your household, every person in your household should have a flashlight or 2 with extra batteries. And you want to keep these batteries outside the flashlight. As soon as you put an alkaline battery into the flashlight, it starts to degrade and starts to drain. And as many of us know, if you leave batteries in something over time, they will corrode. And then it will break the flashlight, or you're going to have to scrape that out or tear out the battery to put a fresh one in. So keep your batteries new in the container, just alongside your flashlight, or have them stored somewhere where you can access fresh batteries. Additionally, have some money on hand, but store them in small denominations, 1s, 5s, and 10s. If you go to someone who's selling water because you don't have any, and you only have 20s on you, that bottle of water is going to cost you $20, regardless of whatever. If they're charging $5, but you only have 20, they may or may not make change for you, and then you're looking at $20 bottle of water. And don't expect to be able to go to the ATM because, again, there's not going to be any power, so that ATM is not going to work. And even if it did, that ATM will probably get drained of all its money and not restocked anytime soon. I mentioned first aid. You really want to have a good sized first aid kit, possibly even what's called a trauma kit. But that doesn't do you any good if you don't have the training. I can't emphasize and stress how important it is to take first aid training. Don't just take basic first aid CPR. If you have the opportunity, take more advanced medical, emergency medical responder, or Red Cross is responding to emergencies. It's more of an advanced first aid class and goes more in depth. The basic first aid CPR AED tries to squeeze way too much into an 8-hour class. And the people who've taken these classes typically come out saying it was like a fire hose was sprayed at them and they didn't retain the information. You might have to take these first aid classes a couple of times to get the information. But if you can find a good advanced first aid class or emergency medical responder class, or even an EMT class, that spreads it out over multiple days, and you're going to learn a lot more. But these skills are perishable. You do need to recertify every 2 years, and that's because you lose this information if you're not using it. So it's very important to remember to keep your skills up to date and constantly learn more, take additional training. Communications is going to be vital. Having a family radio service or an FRS radio for every person in your household, plus additional batteries, or a ham radio, or both, is going to be vital to being able to communicate, not only within your household, but also with your neighbors. And you need to practice. If you pick up a radio for the first time right after an earthquake, it's going to be a disaster. And the people who come to our monthly radio trainings will tell you, if it is the first time they've used a radio, it is not something that's easy to use. So you need to practice. You need to make sure that you know how to use this radio before you actually need to use it. Additionally, sanitation is going to be critical. If you don't have water coming into your home, you're not going to be able to flush your toilet. If you don't have a way to get rid of or isolate the human waste, if we're talking about 3 weeks worth of time, that's a huge amount of human waste that's building up. That becomes toxic. That becomes extremely dangerous to keep. So contractor size trash bags, kitty litter, bleach, waterless soap. I mention waterless soap because, again, if you don't have water flowing through your home, you're not going to be able to wash your hands. And you don't want to use that gallon of water that you have for cooking for hydration on washing your hands or other things. They do make waterless showers. They're basically towels that you unwrap and you can wipe yourself with to clean yourself and maintain sanitation. Everybody should have a large trash can that you can seal. Additionally, in terms of like a portable toilet, a 5-gallon bucket that they sell at Home Depot with kitty litter put into a trash bag makes for a very good emergency toilet. They do actually make toilet seat covers that will fit onto the top of these 5-gallon buckets, and it is really just a toilet at that point. But again, you want some sort of tight-filling lid in order to seal that off when you're not using it. It's critical that you start to plan ahead of time. Plan on where you're going to meet your family members. If something happens to your home or you're separated, people are not at home, you're at work, your kids are at school, it's important to know where you're going to meet. If for some reason you can't get to your neighborhood, your home, whatever, if there's a giant crater where your house was, you need somewhere else that everybody knows to go. And additionally, if you're in the home, practice escaping the home. If there's a fire in your hallway, if you see the picture here, if there's a fire in the main hallway, how do people get out? Are there additional exits? Is there a back door? Are there windows that you can pop open and escape from? Practice these things. They're called EDIF, exit drills in the home. Make sure that you know what to do before the earthquake happens. That's not the time to think about it. If there's a fire in your hall, that's not the time to think about how am I going to get out of here. One good thing to practice is actually go camping. Go camping in the woods for a weekend. You can't just drive to the store and you're going to realize, oh, I did not bring these supplies that I actually do need. I didn't even think about it. And then when you have a couple weekends under your belt and you've practiced, now try camping for a week. You're going to find out things that you didn't even think about, and you're going to find that it's dramatically different not going without these supplies for a couple of days to suddenly not having these supplies for an entire week. And if you do these a few times, you're going to be more proficient in knowing what you need for your individual preparedness and being able to see how well you can survive without hot showers, without being able to use the toilet, without flowing water. But at the same time, as we talk about this, remember that we live in communities. And a lot of people want to be prepared to live on their own, and that's great if you can do that, but it's very difficult to plan for everything. The people who camp for weeks at a time are going to be much better at this than the people who go glamping, or the people who have never gone camping before. And so you might think you have everything that you need, but after that earthquake happens and you're on your own and you're going to hole up in your house, you're going to realize that you're missing things. And there's no way to get them at that point. So you really do want to think about this as much as possible, but at the same time, start talking to your neighbors, because you live in this community, you live in this neighborhood, you live in this neighborhood block. And that's really the focus of this presentation is individual preparedness, but at the same time, working together as a neighborhood block so that we can survive together. Additionally, if you're on your own and you're not talking to your neighbors, there are people who are going to get desperate. They're going to see that you have things, hear your generator on at night, see your lights on when the rest of the neighborhood is dark. And if you've shut yourself off from your neighbors and you're not talking to them, they're not going to be looking out for you. They're not going to say, hey, there's some weird car that's sitting here casing this house out that has all these lights on and has a generator running 24/7. They're not going to warn you about the people who are watching you, waiting for you to drop your guard and then to take advantage of you.